So what we're going to do is we're going to go through our basic workflow for our project. I have one created so far, but we'll go ahead and create a new one. So Harish, do you have a name for this one?
How about the virus?
Virus. Let's go with virus. I think that's topical.
So I guess while Clayton's getting this set up, maybe I'll just sort of tee up what we sort of worked on for this. We're calling this MVP3 Plus, just so that you're able to understand that concept. So a few sort of, I guess, major flow changes stemming from our last demo. One of them being that previously we had a button in the app where we could have the user add revenue. And this was predominantly to record any revenue that was transferred to the project's wallet, which would then initiate the allocation of that revenue to the different stakeholders, and then you would have the payments made. And so we removed that part to automate the flow a little bit. So now, instead of a user having to manually add revenue, we've done it based on the token exchange. So whenever tokens flow into the project treasury wallet, that automatically will then initiate the revenue formally being recorded in the film contract on the blockchain, as well as setting the allocations and making the payments. So you'll see that improved workflow where it's only once the tokens have been transferred do you then see the transfer of funds to the individual stakeholders. We had a small bug with the way the allocations were being displayed, so that got fixed. And just trying to think if there's anything sort of major on top of that. Overall, just everything seems to be a lot more stable, a lot more reliable in terms of everything working the way we expect it to be.
And this part of the workflow is as
So we're
normal.
Yes, as normal. Yep.
And just so, you know, Colin and Sunny, as he's creating these tiers here, there is one of the stakeholders is given a target. And when you're going through and adding other stakeholders, typically you can put 0 in and it will automatically figure out what their particular targets are going to be.
Sorry, one more change here, and Clayton, just before you do this part here. So maybe just before we haul through the demo. So just to summarize what's been done so far for you, Sunny and Colin, we've gone through, we've allocated the target amounts for the different stakeholders. So we've got a distributor, we've got an investor, we've got a cast crew. That's what Clayton was setting up there. And now we've copied the contract. And so now we've moved into the Block Mason link application. Clayton, maybe just slow down for a second here and let's just undo that part so that we redo it, because this is going to be an important sort of change to the process. So what we had done before is we used one centralized sort of treasury wallet. As soon as star test tokens were sent to that wallet, that's when revenue got recorded, but we were using effectively the same wallet for each of the film projects. The workflow now is that every project will get its own unique Ethereum address. And that's going to be the film treasury address. And so when tokens are sent to that treasury address, that's when the app knows, okay, I see some tokens being sent to this particular account. And that then triggers the process of allocating the revenue and then making the payment. So every film project now has its own unique wallet, essentially. And that's what Clayton's going to do right here. So we've logged into the Block Mason link application, and you can see the little wallet icon highlighted in the left-hand menu here. This is the list of all the wallets that are basically living inside of Link. And so we're going to go ahead and create a new wallet for this particular film project. And because it's a new wallet address, we do need to basically fund it with a little bit of ELA, so that when the contract gets deployed and when we set allocations and add revenue and all that stuff, this is effectively the address that manages that entire process. So what I'm going to do is, just using MetaMask, is I'm going to send a few tokens to that particular address, so it's able to basically pay for the gas transaction fees. And on Elastos, they're really small. They're like 0.001, I think, or something like that. So you don't need to seed very much at all to be able to get this address to make those transactions happen.
Yeah. So now that we've created the account for this, the wallet for this project, we'll go ahead and we'll deploy it here. So we're going to create a new.
Wait a second before you deploy it, because I have to send you some funds.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll just get this set up then. Just make sure we've copied that. We're going to select the treasury that we want to use, which is the virus project one, and Elastos is the network we're going to be using.
Now, if we did use Thunder Core, would we be doing the same thing as in sending TT tokens to that address?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, that's right. We've got that already built in there.
Yeah, so that's Elastos in this case, but yeah, Thunder Core is already set up in this account. So then we'll just give it a quick name.
And Garnet, just to your point there, the nice thing with Thunder Core is at least for test purposes, you've got the faucet, so you don't need to go through that process of converting ELA to like ELA ETH. You can just go and basically drip a few Thunder Core test tokens to use.
And Harish, let me know when you've transferred a couple ELA. And
I've done it. You're good to go.
Perfect. So we'll go ahead and deploy it then. This can take a little bit depending on how fast their network is.
Yeah, so right now it's basically you get to see the end-to-end process, including sort of these interim steps that you normally wouldn't have a front-end user experience. And we've kind of done this partly because Link gives us the flexibility to quickly switch between networks if we want to try using a different Ethereum network.
Yeah, I mean, we might want to just keep, like say, if we have a developer edition, they would have access to this backend where they can sort of tweak it as they want, but the consumer version would be without it.
Okay, I think it got deployed, yeah?
Yeah, so it's been deployed, and we're going to set up the APIs as well.
So this setup is for the StarWire app to be able to make the calls to Link, which then makes the calls to the Elastos blockchain.
Got it. So with any of the past projects that we set up, will we have to sort of redo those, or would those function?
So the contracts are all deployed. You would have to, I guess on the front end, Clayton, you would have to recreate those projects, or are they stored in the database?
Most likely, just for safety's sake, recreating them makes the most sense. But some of them may still work. I haven't tested with all of the old contracts yet. There's just differences between them.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of sort of testing here that it's probably better just to do it from scratch, just so that everything end to end is intact.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yes, and then just go off. Okay, there we go. So here's the virus project. We can take a look at the APIs once again, but all we need for this is we need the client ID and secret, which is found at the bottom.
And the extra step now when you activate is you also need to add the project treasury wallet.
Yes, I'll grab that as well. So I'll show you what it's like to activate. So we go into our virus project here. We put in the client ID here. So it's the client secret. And then the treasury wallet address. We'll go ahead, hit activate. So now when we go into this project, we should have it activated and be able to pull the data from the blockchain. So here we can get some of the information. We've added just a little check here in the revenue where you can compare the revenue in the account to the recorded revenue by the project. That's just for testing purposes. That'll be invisible otherwise.
Yeah, so under the revenue, that first figure, the ones currently, I mean, they're both to 0 right now. The first figure is what the tokens, the star test tokens that are actually in the project treasury wallet. And then the second is what's been cumulatively recorded for this project and recorded on the blockchain.
Yeah. So we can go into the graphs, take a look at each of the tiers right now. I know that's going to change, but it's still an option. And then what we'll go ahead and do is I'll add myself as a contributor onto here as a distributor. So do that. We'll find project. And we'll go ahead and join project. And then we can see, check here, we see that StarWire developer wants to be a distributor on the project. So that's where you can check your notifications. Go into the virus project. We see this pop up. I'm going to hit accept. And then it takes a little bit because it has to record to the blockchain. And then when we come back, we should see that we'll be a contributor on here. Yeah, so here we go. Contributor, we're right here as a distributor. And then what we'll do now is, Harish, do you want to transfer some funds into that account?
Yeah, I could. Actually, Garnett, have you got your MetaMax available there?
Yeah, let me see here.
And I had sent you a bunch of just the test tokens. Did you receive those?
Yeah.
So Clayton, why don't you copy and paste that treasury wallet into the chat here, and then Garnett, why don't you send some tokens to that project treasury wallet?
Sure. Okay, so this is my MetaMax wallet. We've got my old tokens.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to add a token, it's a custom token, and this is the address. Harish just shared with me, star test 2, and next. Okay, so
it's actually 1 billion, not 1, but when you add it, you'll see it. There you go.
Okay. So here's my tokens.
So now send some tokens representing basically a transfer of revenue to the project treasury wallet.
Token star test 2 send the wallet address. So it's kind of saying this is a, I could call this the virus treasury wallet just for my own sake, so I know what the heck this address is.
Mm-hmm.
And
so you send it to 10,000 or something.
I'll go 20. What was our first tier there that you did, Clayton?
Let me just check. First tier is 100,000.
100,000. So do we want to go over that or just under it? Maybe.
You can start by going just under it, and then we'll send another one, and then that'll take us over the top.
So there's 90,000 star test. Oh, I'll go fast with that. Oh, now let's hope that my weird networking thing. Oh, hey,
There you go.
awesome.
Okay, so let's check back in here. We'll see. We have it already. Okay, there we go. 90,000 revenue has been added. It's going to be recorded now. So next time we check back, this takes just a moment. Next time we check back, we'll be able to see that that has increased, and then we'll be able to make payments as well. So I'm just going to wait until this is completed.
So what's happened so far is we're pulling the balance from the project treasury wallet, and that's why we've got the 90,000, and that's a very quick check. The next step is us officially recording the 90,000 to the film project contract, and that's sort of in the blockchain. So that's the process because it's basically like a database write that's going to take 30 seconds or so, and then once that's done, the funds are then allocated to the different contributors, and then after that the payment is made, and all that's done automatically once the project treasury wallet has received any funds. It's automatically triggered.
Wow, that's fantastic. And the little recorded number that just will click over without.
Yeah, once we reload this page, we'll see the update. Just waiting for the last few. You can kind of
see in that little window on the right, it's a little cryptic, but basically you're seeing the ad revenue being called, and then the allocations being set, and then we're getting the stakeholder wallets. Then we're making the payments and the allocations, and then we're resetting everything back to zero. So that's effectively what's been happening in sequence here.
Yeah. So we're almost done with everything. It's just doing the transfers as well.
So I think if you go out to the project details and log back in, you'll see some things start to update here.
So it's still transferring. We'll just wait until this is complete. So it's also transferring all the funds. And then once we check back, we'll see everything has been set up.
So we should have a little window that comes up saying, "Go have a coffee while this renders," or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. There would have to be something. So, okay, so let's come back to this. So we can see if we check in, everything should be recorded.
So the reason that the first number now for the revenue is zero is because all 90,000 of the funds in the project treasury wallet have been transferred to the different stakeholders, but we are still continuing to record and tally the total revenue that the project has received.
Yes. So the number on the right is the total amount, and then the number on the left is what's in the wallet right now. And since we just emptied it, it's at zero. Yeah. So
your current balances.
So let's go ahead and check that then.
There you go.
So yeah, my current balance is over 100,000. I had a little bit of a balance before.
I just view the transactions.
Yeah, transactions. So 90,000. There's the transfer right there that just came in. And yeah, so that's the new workflow.
Should there be a date there too on the transactions?
Yeah, I mean, that's not a bad idea. That would have to be something we have to look at. Harish, do you know if the dates are recorded on transactions with ERC tokens?
Yep. Yeah, all that should be there.
Okay, perfect. Then it's just a matter of showing that.
Yeah, it should be pretty easy to pull that actually.
Yeah. Yeah. First you can check.
Yeah, wow, that's fantastic, guys.
All right, so go ahead.
Let me just show my screen really quickly here, and I'll kind of show you what's been on sort of the blockchain explorer itself. Okay, you're able to see my screen there?
Yep.
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So here I'm looking at the Lastos blockchain explorer, and I'm looking at the project film treasury address. That's the address that we have there. So we can see what our ELA balance there is. And now if we take a look, so these are all the calls that were just made a few minutes ago. And if I take a look at the tokens that sort of were transferred here, we received 90,000, and then we sent out just about 90,000. There's a small factor there for the gas fee. And so we can see our current balance in here is basically effectively zero here. So all 90,000 tokens essentially were transferred from the film project treasury address. And then we can also just confirm that this was sent to the owner of that, or the distributor, I would say, whoever that stakeholder that we've added to that project. They've received the 90,000 tokens. There we go. So we had transferred the 90,000 here. This was the transaction. So this is, Colin, to your question, effectively this information here should be available while we pull the transaction record. So effectively the stuff that you see here, including the timestamp, should be available to us, relatively easy to pull and to be able to use
perfect.
that. Yeah.
Just like a bank record, I sometimes go back and I can't remember what I bought, and I look at the date to figure out what it was.
Yeah, and it looks like you guys maybe fixed up some of the decimal sort of reporting within our app. Is that part of it?
Yep.
Yep.
Things like that should be fixed. Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Yeah, that's really good. I mean, that's sort of, yeah, this is definitely version 3.5 or 0.9 really, because that was like a major leap forward to have that treasury wallet set up like that. Very powerful.
Yeah, setting up the treasury wallet that's unique for every film project, and then just streamlining that workflow so that the user doesn't have to really worry about it from the front end perspective. It just works. And you know, from our understanding, the transfers would be something that maybe would happen like once a month, maybe every 2 or 3 weeks. And so if we're talking about, you know, this process of the allocation and the payments, that whole process took us maybe about 2 minutes. So you're talking about a 2-minute sort of waiting period in sort of a month time span here. So it's not very long in terms of the execution time here. But whatever token that's created, we can simply just point our app to use that token contract. And so up until the point where we get to, you know, a production token that we want to use, you know, we can keep just creating new ones if we want to use it for test purposes. I had started to get a little low on my original star test tokens, which is why I minted sort of a new batch just to use for testing purposes. Yeah, so the actual use of Ethereum itself is basically no work at all, because we can just simply put our contracts all in Ethereum and then just use that network. So that part is seamless. If we wanted to, instead of using our star test token, use an existing stable coin, that will require a little bit of reconfiguring things, because that's an existing contract address that's got its own original owner. And so we would need to basically plug in a few of those pieces into the app to be able to use an existing token contract. For any new contracts that we create, because we're the owner, it's relatively easy to do that, which is why I was able to just mint another StarTest2 token. But if we wanted to use an existing stable coin, it's doable. It's just that it requires a bit of config that we'll need to do on the back end to be able to make that work. I was just going to say, okay. So this is effectively the output of the contract builder. And this can seamlessly go from here into sort of Link. We can even use Remix, or basically any contract deployment tool. It doesn't have to be Link. This contract can be deployed to any Ethereum compatible blockchain using whichever deployment tool you'd want to use. So Truffle, or I don't know what other ones are out there. Truffle and Remix are usually the most popular ones. Either of them could be used to deploy this contract.
Now, is the end user going to be able to see that sort of code contract, or are they going to see kind of the paper version that they kind of inputted to begin with?
So if they want to take a look at the sort of more normal, here, let me just refresh this. The more standard looking contract, then they'll have to use the visualizer, which I'll show you what that looks like. I mean, I think that's something that looks like it's in the process of being built by your team from India as well. But the one that we currently have looks something like this. So you can go through each tier. For that one, for tier 2, we have the investor taking 75%, the distributor with 25%. And then we have a list of the stakeholders. Since we don't have an investor on this project yet, they haven't shown up yet. But we have the distributor here, and we can go through each of the tiers as we've set them up, with this one being cast and crew taking 50%, and then this one with the distributor, and then finally with the distributor as well. So that's the way that they can visually look at it. Beyond that, there's not really like a pretty print version of the contract.
Yeah, I think part of when the revenue simulator is done, there will be a PDF printout sort of available there, which ultimately will be connected to the app. It's just easier for them to work on it separately right now.
I just mean the end user doesn't need to see that Solidity code. It could just be ready to send to blockchain with a button.
In terms of, you can think of this app basically being sort of two parts. There's the payment layer, and that's the actual tokens being transferred. And then there's the recording layer, and that actually just records things like revenue, the allocations. So you can effectively do each of those things on completely separate networks. You can have all your payments and your token transfers being done, let's say on the Ethereum mainnet, and then you can have the recording stuff being done on a completely different network. You can have that on Elastos ETH sidechain. You can have that on Thundercore, whatever you want to use, if you want to use it for performance. So all that really means is the recording will be done really, really quickly. It's just the payments are going to be dependent on the network that's being used, and that might take a little bit longer if you're using the Ethereum mainnet.